Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Scott Beadle. The federal website where you can get free at-home COVID tests is now active with 500 million tests available. Big Fox's Matt Kleindinst is in Corning with reaction from local residents and health officials.
Good evening, Scott. Local residents can now order free at-home rapid tests and have them shipped right to their door. One local health official I spoke with told me this influx of tests should help meet the demand in Steuben County. With the click of a mouse, people across the country can order 4 at-home rapid tests for free. Now that the new federal website is online, local health officials say this will help meet the demand of rapid COVID testing.
So this, could be like a backup or a plan B for folks who just want to have these tests on hand.
This afternoon, I spoke with a half dozen residents off camera about the new website. All of them told me they either already placed their order for their rapid test or were planning on doing so. Steuben County libraries have been distributing rapid tests from the state over the past few weeks. However, high demand has made getting these tests difficult. Darlene Smith tells me the new federal website will provide much needed relief for local libraries.
We've only had enough rapid antigen tests to give to the libraries for them to be points of distribution one time so far. It's just going to be an added resource for folks.
While some have criticized the potential 7 to 12 day delivery time, Smith argues the test will be handy for certain public gatherings.
I think we always need to have some rapid antigen tests on hand.
Residents who want a free rapid test can place their order on covidtest.gov. Matt Kleindinst, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
The U.S. Supreme Court says the federal mask mandate for air travel can remain in place. The court denied an emergency pause filed by 2 plaintiffs, one needing medical travel for an autistic son and the other with generalized anxiety disorder. The mandate remains in place for commercial air travel, buses, and rail systems. The court did not comment on the denials. That decision comes following the recent ruling against the Biden administration vaccine mandate for private employers. The mask mandate is in place until at least March 18th. Passengers at the Elmira Corning Airport will be asked to arrive a little earlier for their flights next week. The airport announced that new baggage screening equipment will be installed by the TSA, and airport officials say all carry-on bags will need to be hand-searched until that new equipment is fully installed. The TSA will start installing that new equipment on Monday. Elmira City Councilman Nick Grasso announced his candidacy for the Chemung County Legislature. In a post on Facebook, Grasso stated that the city of Elmira needs an advocate for its interests at the county level. Grasso is running for Chemung County's 11th district, which is currently held by Bob Riggs. Grasso has served on the Elmira City Council since 2019. The New York Attorney General is taking legal action to force former President Donald Trump and his adult children, Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump, to comply with the investigation into the Trump Organization's financial dealings. The office of New York AG Letitia James says its civil investigation has uncovered evidence that Trump's company used, quote, fraudulent or misleading documents to get loans and tax breaks. In a court filing late Tuesday, the AG's office said evidence shows the Trump Organization regularly misrepresented the value of its properties and golf clubs in financial statements. Investigators say they want to question Trump and his family further before the possibility of a civil lawsuit. At least one student has been injured in a shooting at a school in Pittsburgh. Police were called to the scene outside of Oliver Citywide Academy. School officials say 2 people approached a van at dismissal and fired shots into the vehicle. A 15-year-old boy inside the van was hit by gunfire and was taken to an area hospital. The driver was also inside the vehicle but was not injured. Officials say the teen was shot twice in the chest and at last word was in critical condition. Police say they're looking for 2 suspects. New daytime video shows the extent of the damage in a deadly building blast in the Bronx. The Tuesday explosion killed 1 person and injured several others. Surrounding buildings were also evacuated as a precaution. Investigators are still working to determine the cause of the explosion, but there is a report of at least 1 person smelling gas in the area before the blast. Rapper Cardi B offers to pay funeral expenses for those who lost their lives in a devastating fire that ripped through a high-rise building in the Bronx. The 29-year-old and Bronx native has pledged to help the families of all 17 victims killed in New York City's deadliest fire in 3 decades. The rapper released a statement saying, quote, "I'm extremely proud to be from the Bronx, and I have lots of family and friends who live and work there still. So when I heard about the fire and all of the victims, I knew I needed to do something to help." The victims include a 2-year-old and 7 other children who died from smoke inhalation after the fire broke out. That fire is believed to have been caused by a faulty space heater. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says the city needs more than just extra police on the subways to deal with people having mental health crises. The mayor says the city isn't doing a good enough job to help those people get real help. These comments come days after a mentally ill man pushed a woman to her death on a subway platform in Times Square in an unprovoked attack.
We're going to constantly evolve, and I say this over and over again, that sometimes when a terrible incident that shocks the entire city happens, we really don't see how many cases we prevented. No one sees the cases that are prevented.
That suspect, Simon Marshall, was arraigned for second-degree murder from his hospital bed today. America's top diplomat is in Ukraine as he warns that Russia could attack that nation at any point. He's midway through a week of diplomacy and promises sanctions against Russia if Russia does attack. Lauren Blanchard has more from Washington.
Russia has ratcheted up its threats and amassed nearly 100,000 forces on Ukraine's border, which it could double on relatively short order.
In Kiev, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is trying to promote diplomacy while also warning Russia.
We've made very clear to Moscow that if it chooses to renew aggression against Ukraine, it will be met and it will face very severe consequences.
The U.S. will give $200 million in defensive military aid to Ukraine. In a press conference with the foreign minister, Secretary Blinken promised more aid if Russia does invade.
Our efforts are focused on making sure that the situation in Ukraine stays stable.
The White House, though, is sounding the alarm, and as promised, President Biden will impose sanctions if Moscow attacks.
We're now at a stage where Russia could at any point launch an attack in Ukraine.
On Friday, Secretary Blinken will meet with the Russian foreign minister in Geneva. Blinken has said there are some Russian demands that are non-starters.
It's not clear what Russia's central demand is or is not.
However, the administration's response is being criticized by some.
I just don't think they have a plan going forward.
Before he meets with Russia's foreign minister on Friday, Blinken will stop over in Berlin for talks with the German and other European allies on Thursday. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Still ahead tonight, why cell phone companies delayed the launch of 5G near some airports. Plus,
billionaire growth double at the rate of $15,000 per second.
More on a study that finds many of the world's wealthiest people more than doubled their fortunes during the pandemic.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Hello everybody, it's Adam Bowles with your weather, brought to you in part by William Mattar. Kim has the night off for this evening. Here's the weather headlines for the next few days. Rain and snow showers are possible for tonight into early tomorrow morning, but not much. I would say about a 30% rain and snow chance as well. Very cold air by Thursday with highs plummeting back into the teens once again for a high. And then after that, slowly getting milder by the weekend, including early next week as well. Today wasn't bad at all. into the 40s temperature-wise. Look at that, almost a 10 to 13 to 15 degree difference from this time yesterday. Expect more partly cloudy skies, rain and snow showers, leftover rain and snow showers possible in the morning. But look at that, we are plummeting into the teens, and we're not really going to escape the teens as we head to Thursday afternoon as well. Not as cold air for a start, but I am tracking a big cold front plummeting the temperatures once again for the high, especially for Thursday. Partly cloudy skies, mostly dry for your Thursday as well. But look at that. The normal high is 34 degrees. In near the teens. That is it. Most of us are not even going to escape the teens and partly sunny skies as we head into the afternoon and also the evening hours into the single digits. Once again, that very Arctic air spreading in from north to south right into our area. So expect some leftover rain and snow showers for the evening into early tomorrow morning, but that does clear out, looking mostly dry and quiet, partly sunny. The story for Thursday, though, is a very Arctic air on the way too. All right, so 17 for tonight. Here's a recap. Clearing, some leftover rain and snow showers possible, but Arctic air on the way by tomorrow with a high of 20. But I would say some of us, or most of us, not even escaping the teens for a high. I would say 18 degrees. Isolated snow shower possible, partly sunny and frigid with a high of 18. Lows in the negatives once again, so be sure to bundle up, especially for the nighttime hours. Friday, more sunshine and very Arctic air once again with a high of 15 degrees. Back into the 20s, slowly getting a little bit of a warm up, but still cold. 23 for Saturday, 28, slightly warmer. And then we do have temperatures near 30 before we have another cold front bringing in more snow showers possible back into the 20s and then back to around 15 degrees by Wednesday.
Positive COVID-19 cases aren't the only thing that's been surging. The gap between rich and poor has been rapidly increasing over the course of the pandemic. Kevin Cork looks at a new study that highlights the damaging effects of income inequality and a possible solution.
The pandemic has been a billionaire bonanza.
New data from anti-poverty group Oxfam finds the coronavirus pandemic has escalated the growing wealth gap.
Billionaire growth double at the rate of $15,000 per second.
Researchers found the 10 most affluent people in the world more than doubled their fortunes throughout the ongoing health crisis, while roughly 160 million people sank below the poverty line. And Oxfam officials say this gap comes with very deadly consequences.
Inequality is contributing to the death of one person every 4 seconds through preventable, solvable problems. Hunger, lack of access to health care, and at a time like this, lack of access to vaccines.
Meanwhile, the lack of vaccines for poorer nations is an area of major concern for health officials, who say more people need to get the shots to stop the spread of the virus and to keep it from further mutating. Heads at Oxfam believe taxing billionaires is a solution to vaccine disparity and ending the pandemic.
If one were to tax the 10 wealthiest people, the 10 billionaires, on the profits made during the pandemic at 99%, which is a very high amount, of course, we would be able to pay for vaccines for the whole world.
Oxfam data also finds of the poorest countries in the world, only 7% of those citizens have had at least one COVID-19 shot, compared to the more than 75% of folks in rich nations who have.
AT&T and Verizon are halting the activation of some 5G cell towers near airports as airlines make adjustments to flights. Mike Tobin has more.
Several international airlines canceled or altered flights to the U.S. today ahead of the new 5G wireless service rollout. Emirates, Air India, and Lufthansa are among those citing safety concerns. The decision coming even after AT&T and Verizon agreed to limit turning on the switch near most of the nation's biggest airports.
We're still in the investigation phase, and because of that, we can't take a chance with the safety of the flying public. So we have to be We have to delay the implementation.
5G relies on radio frequencies needed by planes for safety and navigation. Telecom companies argue the technology has proven safe in dozens of countries, but airlines expressed concern it would make it harder for planes to land, especially in bad weather. The FAA updated its safety guidance Tuesday, saying the 5G rollout could particularly impact the Boeing 777, an aircraft used by carriers around the globe.
The telecom companies and the Federal Communications Commission say, look, the airlines had plenty of time. They had plenty of time to check their equipment to make sure their planes could operate safely.
President Biden praised the temporary rollout delay. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the administration is working with the FAA and wireless carriers to reach a solution.
We believe that with continued cooperation, we can chart a path forward, but certainly minimizing flight disruptions.
And today, Delta Airlines is preparing for possible cancellations due to poor visibility in some locations.
We're hearing alarming stories about some of the evacuees that the U.S. flew out of Afghanistan last August. Some are facing bureaucratic red tape, lack of government documentation and papers, and delayed Social Security numbers. Jennifer Griffin has more.
Abdullah Ramatzada worked as a driver at the U.S. Embassy in Kabul. He took this photo the day he was evacuated in August. He and his pregnant wife made it onto one of the last military flights and eventually to Charlotte, North Carolina, where he has been living with about 50 Afghan families in a motel.
It's some supermarket. Its name is Ristiter.
Unlike most of the 124,000 Afghans airlifted out of Kabul, Abdullah has received a Social Security number. He's one of the lucky ones.
They've been sitting in hotel rooms or Airbnbs for months on end, just simply waiting for that card to come in that says they're allowed to work.
Sean Kildane of Save Our Allies, a group formed by U.S. veterans last August, says unless Congress acts, these Afghans will fail.
Agencies that handle those programs are overwhelmed and unable to support those needs. And so many Afghans, unfortunately, are falling through the cracks.
On December 6, Abdullah's wife went into labor and he called 911. His baby was born with a club foot and the government-funded resettlement agency could not help. Save Our Allies got him an appointment at a children's hospital in Greenville, South Carolina. The U.S. government only commits to providing support for the evacuees for 90 days. It provides $1,225 per evacuee. They also loan them the money to fly to their final destination. That money needs to be paid back. Nick Palmisciano, another veteran, described the case of an Afghan combat translator named Johnny, who Fox News has followed on his journey to North Carolina. He was evacuated with his wife and 3 children.
He has had his work visa lost in the mail twice. If we did not provide financial support, if we weren't looking out for him, he literally would be on the street with no means of feeding his family. Do we want them to become successful, productive members of American society?
The Defense Department has announced that it wants all of the evacuees off U.S. bases and resettled by February 15th. Veterans groups are urging Congress to act to give them a temporary status and permission to work.
A Bankrate.com survey reveals less than half of Americans can financially handle an unplanned emergency expense, such as a car repair or emergency room bill. More than a third of the 1,004 adults asked would need to borrow money in some way if the expense were $1,000 or more. 49% say inflation is forcing them to save less. To avoid financial hardship, experts recommend having an emergency fund that can cover 3 to 6 months' worth of expenses. A Phoenix police sergeant is being praised for her quick actions that helped save the lives of 2 different babies in 2 separate incidents just days apart. Linda Williams has that story.
Police say Phoenix Sergeant Courtney Fink was driving past a home for an unrelated call when she saw a frantic family with a baby. They told her he quit breathing during feeding. Sergeant Fink took quick action.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you. Very good. Another one.
She gave him rubs to the sternum and rolled him back and forth. The sergeant says she doesn't have medical background, but she is a mother.
The scariest thing a human can deal with is a baby that's not breathing. Best sound ever. It meant he was probably going to be okay.
Here's the remarkable thing. Just a few days later, a similar situation unfolds with Sergeant Fink with a different family. This time, it was a toddler having a seizure at a Phoenix department store. The sergeant recalled what to do after being a 911 operator.
I remember taking these types of calls before, taking the diaper off and cooling the core and the armpits and the body and the feet and the neck.
Do you have some cold water?
Sergeant Fink's quick thinking helped the toddler's temperature come down until medics got there to take over. Just another day on the job for this alert Phoenix police sergeant.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight, or maybe a thrill or a chill, depending on how much you like horror movies. The famous house from Nightmare on Elm Street sells for almost $3 million. The home from the 80s movie sold last week for $2.98 million. It was first listed in October for more than $3 million, but the price was reduced later in December. The luxurious home includes an open, modern kitchen, a grand primary suite, and plenty of terraces and patios, even a guest cottage. The buyer's identity is not yet public. Thanks for being with us tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow.